session is on SQL, and we do have many of you will be very devoted towards SQL or very interested in SQL. So she will be explaining about SQL. So Riddhi, let's just know first what is SQL. Let us know about the basic idea of SQL. What do you define SQL
Yeah,
as?
right. And we see that there are lots of businesses happening around us, right? So in like old times, you all might be aware that we used to have books where we have sort of tables built, and in those tables we have our data which is regarding to our business, right? So similarly, when we talk about IT industry, if you consider any of the applications, right, any of the applications you use, be it any messaging apps or maybe food delivery app, anything you use, right, the data is revolving around. Okay, there is some or the other thing which is related to data. Okay, so basically, for let's say for business, how we used to store our data in books, similarly when it comes to applications, we also store our data into some applications, right? So let's say if we have stored our data in tabular form or any other form, now we need to communicate with that application. Okay, so for that communication we need a language, right? We need a path. How can we connect with that particular application and we can retrieve data from there, right? So for that particular purpose, we have a language which is SQL, which is structured query language. Okay, so basically, if you have meaningful information, okay, and you want to use that information in any of your application building, we use SQL here as our language. Basically, we write our queries or commands, you can say, to update our data, to retrieve our data. So like this is a very general basic idea of what SQL is. So okay, so basically SQL is a standard programming language, okay, which we use to manipulate the databases. Database is nothing but a place where we are storing all our data, right? In this industry, any of the application we create, right, the databases are very huge. Okay, so basically there are times where we have multiple databases, there are times where we have only one single database, but the general idea, like how to access those databases, is very clear. That is using a language which is called SQL. So yes, this is the general idea of what SQL is.
What is the fundamental difference between SQL and other programming languages?
Okay. So first of all, we have idea about what SQL is, right? Overall idea, not in depth, but overall that, let's say if we want to get some data, if we want to display some data, basically we are having a place which is called database, and with the help of SQL we are getting those data to our application. Okay, so we need to understand a very general idea that there is one thing which is called front end, one thing which is called back end, and one thing which is DB. Okay, so how is SQL different? So basically, if you want to build any front end, right, we use languages like JavaScript. Okay, basically if we are building any backend application, we are using languages like maybe Java or Node.js. But when you want to retrieve those data and you want to use it in the backend, you want to use it in the front end, right? In those scenarios, we use SQL. So you guys are getting general idea that what is SQL and why it is different from other languages. We are purposely using SQL only and only for retrieving the data and using it in the backend and then displaying it in our front end, what we see usually. Maybe you can keep it as take it as any application you use in your mobile phone, or let's say any website you are using, right? So our data is stored somewhere, right? So basically to retrieve that particular data, we use SQL, which then different languages manipulates that data, manipulates as in that different languages like Java or JavaScript puts it in its place, like where this data should be displayed. Okay, but retrieving of the data is done through the SQL. manipulation of the data is done using SQL. So yeah, this is how it is different from other languages. So basically we need to understand one thing, that in SQL we have commands. Okay, so the purpose of SQL is very simple, that basically to get our data we are using our SQL, to manipulate our data we are using SQL. Okay, so now SQL has different commands. Okay, so the first one which you guys can see is the data definition language. Okay, so these are the commands which are used to define our data. Okay, basically let's say if we want to create a table, so we will be using the create table, this particular command which we see. Okay, so basically with the help of this command we can create our table. Similarly, there is something which is called alter table. In alter table, basically you are working on the table which is already created and you are updating something, right? So this is alter table. Then there is something which is called drop table. Okay, so basically let's say if you want to remove this table completely from your database, in that scenario you are using drop. All right, and truncate is nothing but, let's say you are in a scenario where you don't want specific data in your table. Okay, so see here the thing is that difference between drop and truncate is, in drop you are removing your whole table from the database, but in the truncate part you are just removing few of the columns, right? Or maybe let's say if you want to completely remove the whole data which you have in a table. Okay, so in drop your whole table is deleted, but in truncate only the data of your table is deleted. So like these are the DDL commands. After that, in SQL we have something which is called DML commands, right? So let's say if you are done defining what your data is, let's say you are done creating your table, now you need to insert the data, you need to update if required, okay, and you need to delete as well. Okay, so these are the three commands which are used for insert, update and deletion in our table.
What are some common SQL functions and aggregates, and how are they used? What are the purpose of these aggregates and functions?
Great. Okay, so in SQL, right, we have, let's say if you have data, right, you are just not going to get the data and update it. There are some or the other functions which are required to manipulate that data as well. Okay, let us consider a expense table, okay, where you have mentioned all the expenses of maybe June, July, August. Okay, and let's say you want to display in your front end, you want to display that what is the sum, okay, of like what is the total expense between June and July, right? So in such scenarios where we want to get data by adding our data, right, or maybe doing sum, average, mean, max, which you guys can see. So we use these sort of functions to do some calculations. Okay, and when it comes to string, we use this function to manipulate our strings which we have in our data. Okay, so basically we are not manipulating the data there, but let's say if we are retrieving anything from our database, the output we get, right? So we are doing some sort of manipulation on the output of our data, okay, from the queries we have. So similarly we have date function. Okay, date function where we have now. Okay, so now basically gives you the current date. Okay, then we have date difference. Okay, so basically if you are providing two dates, it is going to provide you the difference. Okay, and we have date add. So basically let's say you want to add two dates. Add as in consider a scenario where you want that I want the date like from today to next month, like what will be the date after exactly 30 days, right? So in that scenario what will you do? You'll get your current date, okay, and you'll add 30 to it, right? So it will give you the the date after 30 days. So in those sort of scenarios you use now, date diff or date add. Okay, and upper, lower and concat. I think you guys might be having idea that what is upper, what is lower, what is concat, because what I can understand is every language has similar sort of functions, only the how we write those functions are different, but the working of those functions are pretty similar. So uppercase, if you want to have your output in uppercase, you will be using upper. If you want it in lower, you will be using lower, right? And if you want to, let's say, if you want to merge two sort of strings, you will be using concave. Okay. Yes, Divyanshi.
Okay. So moving forward, what are the joins in SQL?
Okay. So joins are very essential, right? Because okay. So see, joins are very essential because we need to understand there might be multiple multiple databases and multiple tables as well. Okay, so in a scenario where you are working on two different tables, you use joins here. Okay, joins as in basically you are using your table 1 and table 2 together, right? And you are performing or maybe retrieving data from both the tables. It might be 3 tables as well, right? Depending on our scenario, depending on our requirements. So this is the concept of joins, right? So in SQL, we have 4 types of joins. Okay, one is inner, then there is left, right, and full join. Okay, so in inner join, I hope you guys will get some idea from the diagram itself that what is left join, what is right join, what is inner, and what is full outer. Okay, so basically in left join, right, basically you will have data which is matching in both the tables, right? Only the table which is matching in both the tables, you will get it as an output. Okay, then you consider left outer join, right? So in left outer join, the data which is part of left table, okay, and the data which is common in both the tables will be part of your output. All right, and in left and in right outer join, consider data of your left table and the right table. Okay, so the data of your right table and the data which is common in left and right. Okay, so you guys need to understand the difference here, that in the left join you will be getting all the data of the left and the common data. Okay, and in right join you will be getting all the data of the right table, right, and the common data which is between the left and right join. Okay, and in full outer join, the common data is also going to be present, right, and the left and right data which is not common is also going to be present. So full outer join is not widely used, right? Yeah, so basically in uncommon data, right, we need to maybe use not operator, right? We need to use any negative operator, so that basically it will not display that particular data and it will only display the data which is not common. Okay, so yeah, like these are the basic functionalities of joins, right? And mainly, see, if we go very much deeper into joins, it is again going to be a second session for it. So you guys just understand what is the overall idea of joins, right? I don't want you guys to go deeper into this, and I want you guys to focus more on the basic concepts. Joins are bit of advanced concept, right? So I want that you guys understand what join is. Okay, go through what are the basic concepts which are required. After then and there, you need to focus on your advanced topic, which is joins. Okay, so like this is the very basic idea of what joins are and how we can use it for two tables or multiple tables as well. So for the roadmap for SQL, this is my understanding, right? It depends again on how much time you are providing while working on SQL, right? But for a beginner, let's say if you are giving or maybe 1 to 2 hours on daily basis, right? So you can follow this the week structure which I have provided. Okay, for the week 1 you will understand all the basics of SQL, right? What is DBMS, RDBMS, what are the SQL commands, just the basic. No need to write the query, just the theory part. Okay, so maybe you can use some websites like Java Point or tutorials.com, whatsoever you find online, right? And you can go through all the basic Java necessary concepts, right? And in the second week you'll start with the data manipulation, right? And start learning about data types, like in which scenario we are going to use this data type, in which scenario this is going to be used, right? After that, in the fourth week, this is where data manipulation, inserting, updating, deleting the data, and learning the data types. This is going to be for your second week, right? In the third week, you will understand all the advanced query techniques, right? Using the aggregate functions which we currently use. So the queries which you guys currently saw, right, which we did, so these are very basic common queries. In interviews, right, you guys need to prepare a little bit more advanced topics as well, right? So I want you guys to understand joins, like understanding the syntax of joins. Then there is a concept which is called subqueries or views, right? So you guys can go through some YouTube videos or the content you find online, and you can start following this pattern for your third week. I mean these concepts, right? And your fourth week you are going to understand what is schema design, right? Then you are going to build any real world projects, let's say library management system, school management system. You are going to design the whole schema structure for it. Okay, and then you are also going to learn what is an optimized query. Optimized as in, let's say if you are writing a query which is taking maybe 20 seconds to run, right? So you need to learn how to reduce the query, the query time. Okay, so you need to understand the topics, like how we can optimize the query, what should be used in what scenario, what should be avoided, right? So let's say joins. What is join? Basically we are joining two tables and we are getting the output. What is subquery? Subquery is also doing a similar thing. So we need to understand where we are going to use joins, where we are going to use subqueries, in what scenario joins are important, in what scenario joins are not important, and it is affecting our system negatively, right? So we need to learn these sort of techniques as well, like how to write optimized query. So according to me, like what are the best practices to write query, optimizing the query, this all should be in the end, after you are aware about okay what SQL is, and now I'm confident enough that okay I can maybe write medium level of queries, right? Then after that only you should go for the optimized query and all that advanced topics. But like this is the very basic 1 month roadmap for a beginner.